If you've got 5 minutes and you want to save at least 300 quid and probably a lot more by changing your own oil and filter on your Bentley, then keep watching. Hi, I'm Nige of the North, and this week we're going to be talking about oil and filters. All engines need to have clean, fresh oil renewed every 5,000 miles or more often in some cases. And if you don't do it, you're risking your wallet. Every petrol and diesel engine really needs to be serviced regularly, and one of the most important things to do is to keep on top of your oil and filter changes. It's even more important with turbocharged vehicles because this oil is what helps to cool down the turbo fans. Now with a Bentley, you can take it back to Bentley themselves, and I think there's some fixed price servicing available, which is around 500 quid for a short service, which is oil and filter and a few other checks around the car. But I'm going to show you today exactly how to do it yourself and save yourself at least 300 quid using all the right materials. You're going to need a few tools. You're also going to need a replacement filter cartridge, a new seal and a new sump plug and washer. You're going to need 12.5 litres of Mobil 1 or an equivalent oil. I have theories about whether when manufacturers actually designate a particular kind of oil for a car, whether that's some kind of affiliate marketing with them, because you can actually check the technical specifications on oils and check that they are appropriate to use on different vehicles. I'll be using Liqui-Moly 040 synthetic oil. It's what I used last time in conjunction with an engine flush, and I would recommend that anyone that considers doing an oil change thinks about an engine flush at the same time. First, you're going to need to jack the car up safely to get clearance underneath, unless you've got a ramp or a lift. If you've got a ramp or a lift, you're probably not watching this, to be fair. Carefully jack the car up after having engaged jack mode, like so. I actually raised my suspension to full height as well before I did this, just to give myself that extra bit of clearance. This is entirely possible at roadside, but you must be careful. Never get under a vehicle that is not properly supported, and that's quite difficult to achieve on these cars. Once you've got access underneath the vehicle, you're going to need to undo the many different Torx fittings that are holding the sump shield in place. Once you've got them loose, twist them out with your fingers usually, so that's pretty cool. These are T24s, and further back we've got some 10mm nuts for some reason. I keep things the same, eh? And over there, if you're eagle-eyed, you'll see the remnants of the oil that came out of my gearbox when the pipe went. Over there. You can tell I'm not a proper mechanic because I've actually got 10mm sockets. And there's two in the wheel arch liners here and here, which also need to be disconnected so that this can be brought away. Next to last, these 10mm bolts, which will have out. And after that, it's the connection with the wheel arch liners, which, if I remember right, are not all present on this car. Now these next little monkey doodles here, which I'll try and point out, are really difficult to get to. That one's missing, was last time as well. And what I'm going to use is this plumbing tool that I use. It's well, it's not exclusively plumbing, but it's a 90-degree ratchet screwdriver, and this is really good when you're trying to get into basins and things from behind if they're fixed to the wall using the little screws rather than proper bolts. Really difficult to capture this with one hand, but you can see how I've got it attached to that, and you simply turn the handle and the screw comes out. Normally I have my wonderful magnetic tray, but I've left it on the van unfortunately, so this baggy bag will have to do. It's great to keep everything together. Right, that's the last one out, and now it's time to take the tray off. one. I'll let it down there, don't worry about it. Once it's off, you'll get a view of the oil filter and the sump plug here. But for those of you who've got problems with oil pressure switches, that's actually located here, and it's a really good time to do this, particularly when you've just drained the oil. Over on the left hand side, on the driver's side in the UK, you can see the oil filter is there. That's the cartridge housing. Got a big bugger off, I think it's 36mm nut on the end. And at this end, you've got two plugs. Now don't undo that one, it's actually this one. That's your drain plug. Sorry if the picture's not great, it's difficult ploughing around under cars. And for people who wanted to see the oil pressure switch location, so it's more towards the oil filter end of things, and that's the connector for it there. I've got my finger on now. Take my finger out there, you might be able to see it. I believe that is a 24mm nut. So you've got to pry off the connector and get a 24mm socket into there and down through the bottom, and you can get sorted. Best to do this with your engine drained of oil. You will get a little bit of oil come out of it. Do make sure that you've got containers that are big enough to catch 12.5 litres of oil, and never do this when the engine is red hot. Warm is fine, cold is okay, but never ever hot. I use a washing up bowl. So we set up with my washing up bowl, all high-tech equipment here, and my spare washing up bowl if things go terribly wrong. Also be very careful about how you dispose of oil. Never tip it down the drain, never put it in the grates at the side of the road. It must be disposed of safely at your local recycling centre. It doesn't cost you anything to do this, and it saves the environment massive damage. Oil is particularly toxic. Great, so we're going to crack loose the sump plug and allow the oil to drain out. It may be helpful to remove the filler cap while you do this, just to avoid any vacuum problems. What you're going to need is a 19mm socket and a 1/4" bar. So as I say, not this one with the banjo on it, this one here, and the 19mm set to loosen, and they're set at about 20 Newton meters when you're putting them back on. Once you've cracked it loose, you'll find it will come off with just your fingers. Please always wear your rubber gloves. Used oil are carcinogenic, which means it causes cancer, and anything that goes on your skin will soak into your bloodstream. That's just a fact. Right, this will splurt when it comes out. Hopefully I'll catch it all in my dish. Now the oil isn't too hot at this point, so it's not too bad. I'll have a look at the end of that plug there. Don't think these are magnetic, but if they were, you'd see if there was any bad news in store. So we'll let that drain out. While we're waiting for that, we're going to wipe our gloves clean. This stream will weaken, by the way, so you might have to move your bowl as it weakens and drops off. But after that, it's just like draining your radiators down, really. Once the oil's got down to a tiny drip, then you can remove the oil filter housing. Do this by rotating it anti-clockwise from its front view. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So for the oil filter housing, you need a massive socket, and I haven't got one. But being a plumber, I have got pump pliers, and they will do pretty much the same job. I know mechanics will probably tell me off for this, but I am experienced at using them on plastics. This is plastic, so you must be very careful. My recommendation is that you go and get the correct socket. Don't do as I'm doing. This is 14 years of not cocking things up on water pumps. Once it's off, you can remove the paper cartridge and replace the rubber seal. Check that your new cartridge is actually the right type and lubricate the seal with a little fresh, clean engine oil before fully reassembling it. So this is the oil filter removed. Important to note, there is a rubber seal there that needs to be replaced when you put the new filter on. And inside is a paper cartridge which pulls out the housing with a little plop. And we can have a little mess about with this later and see if there's any metal fragments, heaven forbid, in the folds of this. Make sure you get them the right way around. You can't really get them wrong, to be fair, because inside there is this great tube. It's not a spiral, that oil wear. And these filters, when they go in, that plastic clip clips over those rings in the bottom and gives a nice pop so you know it's there. We also need to replace the rubber seal which is there. We need to do that quite carefully so we don't tear the new one, and then we can refit it. Job's a good one. So, as is wont to happen, this is the real world and real things happen in it. Found that it was the wrong oil filter, so I've just cycled for the first time in 10 years down Seymour Road to get another one.
Time has come.
And this looks a bit more like it. So the first thing we've got to do is swap out the rubber seal from the new cartridge, from the new filter, and put it onto the cartridge. So I'm using a super high-tech tool for this. You probably want to go and buy one of these yourself. It's a wooden chip fork. The wood won't damage anything, and with any luck it'll be as effective as the alternative, which would be a slotted screwdriver. So we'll just pull that off. And the only reason I've come across this exceptionally high quality tool is because we had fish and chips in Saltburn yesterday and rather a nice drive out. Okay, so we can see there's some grit and dirt around these threads, so we need to give that a bit of a wipe. So get a cloth. We use this what looks like a very grubby cloth, but it's microfiber and they're perfect for doing anything like this. Sorry if the audio is not great, it's a bit windy today. In fact, it's so windy it blew the oil sideways when it was coming out of the engine, and now I've got to clean the road up, otherwise the council will be after me, and I wouldn't blame them. So this is a new filter, and the filter comes complete with a new sealing ring. It looks identical to that one I've just taken off. So we'll get the sealing ring around the very bottom and then pry it round, and that's it in place there. No problem at all. Now the filter itself goes over there and clicks into place. Got to make sure it clicks, and then you know it's okay. Last thing to do is actually to put a little bit of engine oil around here, so I'll do that off camera and then we can install it. So to replace it is pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. Get the filter into place and then rotate it clockwise onto the thread, making sure it's fully tight, and then give it a nip up with your socket, or with, in my case, the pump pliers. When you're happy that you've achieved a decent seal on the oil filter housing, it's time to put the sump plug back in. But this time we're going to put a new one in with a new crush washer. Now we're not actually going to fit the under tray at the moment because we want to make sure there are no leaks. So it's time to actually go and start topping up the engine using the new engine oil. And remember, it's 12.5 litres. So you can start with 2 5-litre tubs and then go up in multiples of 1. The oil is actually the most expensive part of this job. At 12.5 litres, it's roughly double what most cars take, and it's not cheap stuff to start with. The recommended Mobile 1 is around £20 a litre if you're buying it in the litre sized tubs. But this is a job that you're going to be doing every 12 months at least, so it might be worth you buying 3 5-litre jugs and having 2.5 litres left over for next time you do it. That makes a lot more sense financially, and you've always got some for topping up if you need it. So your oil filler cap is removed, and you can carefully plug the new oil into it. After you've put the first 5 litres in, check underneath and make sure there's absolutely no sign of any leaking. So it's time to refill the oil. I'm going to put a rag all around the filler to catch any that drips over. Don't have to be too twee about it.
It's just going to save you a lot of hassle and a lot of smells if you get some on the engine. Next we're going to use a funnel. This time with the 2.5 litres I had left over from last time.
Don't want to run the whole hog very hard. Add the rest of the oil and set a good stick periodically after you've got the level. It is possible in some circumstances that old engine oil will hang around and keep the pressure, but you might not use it before.
Now I've actually only put 11.5 litres in, and already the dipstick is showing that it's a maximum. So don't let this finish, because the oil filter so whilst it's tempting to start the engine now and let it run round, because it could be that there is still oil left from the oil system, it's best to actually keep dropping it until give it a run, test it again, make sure it's not around the oil filter, and then you will end up putting it through it. That's what I'm going to do.
Once you're satisfied that you've got it to the right level, then it's time to start. What you're looking for ideally is that when the oil heat goes out like into a full cycle. Don't let the engine get warm, let the oil get around all the oil layers and cover all the points and safety areas.
Quite surprising, it's already very quiet, but I'm not in for.
Turn your engine off. Don't let it get too warm because you need to check the level of the oil before you finish.
So we'll check this level again. And see how low it is now? It's actually just at the minimum mark. Topping up, leave your dipstick out. Probably about 1/4 litre left in the tank. That's about perfect now. Probably. Okay. Now getting windy. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Don't forget your oil cap. Fully tighten it.
When you're happy that you've got the right amount of oil in the engine and there are no leaks from underneath, it's time to reattach the under tray. Do this in a direct reversal of how you removed it, not forgetting to fasten in the wheel arch lining fixings, and then you can lower the vehicle, take it out of jack mode, and you should be good to go.
So that's the oil filled, and it's time to get back under the car and swear a lot. Under tray. You only want to fit the bath panel knows that feels like.
So to finish off, all that remains is to take it back out of jackie mode by pressing and holding these two buttons until the dash indicates that it's deselected. Change the ride height back down to normal height, and then we need to reset the service interval. Now to do this, you need to press and hold the trip button here, which is there, and turn the ignition to position 2. So with the ignition on, you can see it says service reset, and to reset you simply press down on this selector wheel. So that's it for an oil and filter service on a Bentley Continental GT W12. I hope this has been useful to you, and it does save you those few £100. If you don't change your oil and filter frequently enough, it can lead to massive problems with the engine, in particular with your turbos, and you definitely don't want that to be happening. If you're really serious about maintaining your car, then please visit my site and subscribe. Have a look at some of these quick how-to guides. We've got over 30 videos on the channel now, and it's building all the time. Please hit me up in the comments, let me know what you think, let me know if there's something in the way of repairing your own car that you want me to look at, and I'll do my best to help. I always reply to every comment I get. Thank you for your time, and happy motoring.